he's saying what you would expect he would say, but from what we've seen of the gallops and stuff of the horse, he's into it. He looks like he's raring to go, and if they didn't keep those draw reins on him, I don't know if they could keep the exercise rider on his back.
Well, a couple of days ago, Pletcher was quoted as saying he got a little fright. I guess the horse almost stumbled or whatnot. That was just more energy and kind of maybe a bad step as compared to what he was doing down at Churchill.
Well, yes, and Churchill, before they put the draw reins on, and I have to say, I've been around the sport a long time. Wasn't that knowledgeable of what the draw reins were used, because they might be using in 1 or 2 or 3% of horses that are out there. But essentially they keep the horse's head down, so that he can't get up in the air. He can't be a control problem for the rider. And so they're attached to the girth that goes around, holds the saddle on and all. And so it keeps the neck bowed down. So, that day when he came on the track, he just kind of kicked up his legs, and he wanted to try to be a bucking bronc and knock the exercise rider off. And when he did that, he kind of lost his balance just briefly and kind of stumbled a little bit. I guess Pletcher just said his heart was kind of in his throat watching that, because that's just, that's the last thing you want to see happen to your horse that's just won the Derby and might be good enough to sweep the Triple Crown. But that's been it. That's been the only blip, and the rest of the time he's been completely under control.
Have our buddies from West Point shown up, Terry Finley and Tommy Bellhouse and company?
Absolutely. Yeah, I've seen them, and they're probably 50 yards away from me at the Alibi breakfast right now, and couldn't be happier with the way things have turned out for them. They made a play on that horse back in March, and they bought a piece of him, and they were in the winner's circle after the Kentucky Derby.
Yeah,
pretty tough to top that.
I texted Terry right after the race. I said, in quotes, Kentucky Derby winning owner, and it has a nice ring to it.
That's true. If you haven't seen it, go to the America's Best Racing site and check out that little video that they did. Terry clearly was overcome by what had happened, as you can imagine, as we all would be. But he definitely was touched by that. And I spoke to him. I saw him on Saturday night, but I talked to him at length on Monday for an article for Saratoga Living, and he was, like he said to you, when you want to win a big one, and this is the big one to win, and so they did.
I linked to that video on Equity. I think I just took it down yesterday or a day before, but hopefully people had a chance to see it. As you say, if not, it's over at America's Best Racing. But also I had up a picture that Bick took right after the race, right after the Derby of Tom Durkin, and you could tell there was a high level of elation from Durkin as well.
That was the angle I used in the lead in my story, is that Terry, was certainly overcome by emotion and put his head down and started weeping. And you could see it when Terry's son's got his arms around his neck. Terry's just overwhelmed. And Tom, meanwhile, is 30 yards or 30 feet away, and he's just the craziest, happiest, Irish guy at the track. It's just two different reactions to what they had just seen and were part of. So it was great.
Yeah,
perfect.
Yeah, absolutely, a lot of fun. Again, we'll be rooting for those guys and see if we can get a Triple Crown. I don't know if that's the way I'm going to bet, because as I say, I'm kind of married to Gunnevera, but certainly easy to root for.
Mike, I will tell you this, Steph. Gunnevera looks great.
Oh, nice. There we go.
He looks great. He may look better now than he did before the Derby. So, if you're a Gunnevera fan, you should be enthusiastic. Just on looks alone, he looks fabulous.
That's what we like to hear. Mike, before I let you go, because I know you have things to cover down there, but I just wondered if there was any buzz. Certainly the sentimental favorite tomorrow. I'm envious. I'd love to see him try that McKay Sprint again. Ben's Cat. Any buzz on the backstretch about Ben's Cat?
Well, we kind of feel like the same way as we did last year. Is his time up? He's lost 6 in a row now, I think it is, he's 11 years old. How is he going to continue on? Can he beat I think the field is 14 here. Can he do this again? People would be crying if he could pull that off like he did last year, because it's just such a cool story with this 11-year-old really game horse that gets the winners off and has won 32 times. I think it is 25 stakes, and it's just a great thing. King Leatherberry he's a bona fide legend here. So to have a 84-year-old trainer, homebred horse that's been running for all these years to win on this weekend would be a big deal. It was fun. I rarely show reaction. You've been in the press box many times through the years. You know, you watch, you're not allowed to cheer. I was beating my hand on the table when Ben's Cat won that race last year. That was just, you can break with protocol on a situation like that.
Yeah, 10 years old last year, multimillionaire, 11 this year, as you say, tied in with King Leatherberry, a legend down there. Easy to root for, and as I say, I'm envious for that. I'd love to be there for that race, to have that kind of experience with his running style, too. Let's hope he can throw in another good one. Mike, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, too, listen, New York fans, New York residents, as we are, really should take a look at the Conquest Mo Money story. It is very cool. These guys in New Mexico bought this horse out of the Conquest dispersal for $8,500 last year, and he's won 3 in a row in New Mexico, and then he ran second in the Sunland Derby and ran second in the Arkansas Derby, and has made $500,000. And now he's here. They paid $150 to get him in here. He was foaled at Sequel down in Hudson, and he's got speed, and he's going to be gunning. I'm sure he's going to from post 10. The owner's 81 years old. He's kind of this crusty guy with jeans and the cowboy hat and the whole deal going. And his trainers, he's got a private trainer that the jockey that got injured, broke his back a few years ago. This guy never rode in races like this. And here he is a few years into his career, and he's at the Preakness. The jockey's been riding for 15 years. George Frano, and he's won exactly one greatest stake in his career was Northlands and Edmonton. And these guys are here. It's a fun. These people are fun, and I'm happy that I got kind of landed on them as somebody that I'm covering for the Notes team, because they're just pinching themselves if they're here. And those are the kind of people you like to root for too. Hey, if they don't win, if they can run a nice race, that'd be cool. But to see the New York bred being able to make it here under these kind of circumstances, pretty funny.
And I have to admit, until you started talking, I just pulled out the PPs. I realized, obviously, he came out of that Conquest sale, and I realized they got a bargain there. But because his early part of the career was at Sunland, I did not realize he was a New York bred.
Me either.
That's very good. That is a nice story for locally.
Mark Ingles did a really nice job in Sunday's Times Union, wrote that story. He had 4 or 5 people quoted in the story from the farm and the people that own it. It's definitely a cool story. The ownership group bought the mare to breed to Mission Impassable up at Hudson, the sequel, and this foal was dropped. They had bought the mare for $80,000 and wanted to bring her back. So the foal drops there. They put the guy in the sale. He goes for $180,000. So already $100,000 is good. And then sequel never gets him to the races, and this guy Tom McKenna buys him for. So they Conquest bought him for $180,000. Never raised him as a 2-year-old, and he sells for $8,500. And come on, we love that stuff.
Those kind of stories do happen at the racetrack every once in a while.
Oh, yeah.
So, again, another side story to root for. Mike, again, plenty going on down there. I know you're busy. We appreciate your taking the time, and good luck over the weekend. We'll talk again.
Thanks very much for asking me. Happy to do it.
All right, Mike Kane, again, NBC Sports. So you can he'll be putting some of the notes together for the Maryland Jockey Club live from Baltimore. We will go back to Baltimore after this break. Gabby Gaudet, paddock analyst, Pimlico, Laurel, Gulfstream in the wintertime, of course, New York in the summertime. She's all over the place, but she's down at Pimlico for Black Eyed Susan and Preakness weekend. We'll get some live on-the-ground account of all of that right after this. Stay tuned.
Hey race fans, head down to the all-new Clubhouse Racebook. With live horse racing on more than 250 flat-screen TVs, state-of-the-art wagering terminals, and amazing Vegas-style atmosphere. The Clubhouse Racebook, 711 Central Avenue, Albany.
And they're turning for home. Coaltown and Citation head and head, and it looks like Eddie Arkell has got his derby. They're coming in there just like they were the enemy, riding each other close. And it is Citation coming to the front. He's everything they said he was. He's going to win with his ears pricking. It is Citation by 2.
There's a strong left-handed whip again by Pincay. He goes to it time and time again, but Ronnie Turcotte has his whip put away, and Secretariat has him put away. He's beginning to draw away. It is Secretariat.
Sided Sand Hepburn along the inside. Run, Dusty, run on the inside.
Here he comes, and he's opening it up again. It's Seattle Slew, and he's drawing clear of the field. Alidar on the outside driving. Affirmed and Alidar heads apart. Affirmed's got a nose in front as they come onto the wire. At the finish, it's going to be dead tight. Affirmed
front as they come to the wire, and American Pharaoh and Victor Espinoza have won the Preakness over Caleb Herb. Bob Baffert get yet another chance at a Triple Crown.
No matter where in the world you are, the excitement of wagering on horse racing is just a click away. CapitalOTB.com offers live streaming, past performances, race replays, our virtual tote board, analysis and selections from professional handicappers, and a simple, safe, and secure wagering platform. And best of all, you get track prices. Going on now, it's Bet 50, Get 50. Simply open a Capital Bets account, bet $50, and get $50 cash back. CapitalOTB.com. Log on today.
Championship horse racing continues at Capital OTB. There's no better place to watch, wager, and win than OTB TV and CapitalOTBBet.com.
With more than 60 Easy Bet and branch locations throughout the region, you're just a short drive from all the top tracks across the country and around the world. For a complete list of all Easy Bet and branch locations, visit CapitalOTB.com. Capital OTB. We're closer than you think.
This is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
Welcome back to Racing Across America on this Thursday morning. Again, counting down Black-Eyed Susan Day tomorrow, Preakness Day on Saturday, and we go back to Baltimore, live from Pimlico with us, Gabby Gaudette. Good morning, Gabby.
Good morning, Seth. How's it going?
Very good. Obviously, with the big second leg coming up, the potential for a Triple Crown is still in the air. I'm sure the buzz down there is exciting. Give us a little, I know you've been out in the morning bouncing around as well, and just give us a little, before we get into specifics, any buzz worth noting over the past few days leading into the big couple of days?
Well, obviously we got the final shipment of horses in the day before yesterday, so that was really exciting to get all of the Preakness horses here pretty early, and so there was a lot of buzz. There were a lot of horses going out at the same time, really too. 6 o'clock hours, pretty busy. But really, the buzz of the week has been Always Dreaming, how he's been pulled into the race, and he's just been so strong, but a controlled strong in the morning. It looks like he hasn't missed a beat since the Kentucky Derby. Same goes for Classic Empire. He's been looking fantastic, really happy in the morning too. But one horse that really stood out to me yesterday, and a lot of people were talking about, was Cloud Computing. And just how he's been training. He looks like he's acclimated really, really well for Chad Brown.
Very good. And let's get some specifics now. Let's go into tomorrow first and get some of your thoughts on the Black-Eyed Susan. And it's a nice field. And these days always have the potential for some hometown heroes putting in a good performance. So while we talk, I'm pulling up an allowance optional claimer from the end of April down at Laurel. And number 1, Shimmering Aspen, will win. This is a horse that 4 starts in the career.
She is full of run. Shimmering Aspen turns for home.
But I thought this horse, again, was kind of interesting on the local angle. Pletcher with Mona looks interesting to me as well. Lights of Medina coming off a couple of wins over at Laurel, including a stakes race last time. Another horse that has had some Maryland success, albeit for Todd Pletcher, so not Maryland-based. But I think the Black-Eyed Susan, really intriguing. A nice full field of 11 tomorrow. What are your thoughts on the Black-Eyed Susan?
It is. I agree with you, because we have horses really coming from a bevy of different backgrounds. We've got Moana, who literally just broke her maiden at Keeneland, whereas we have other horses who ran in the Breeders' Cup as a juvenile, like Dancing Rags. We've got horses who are coming out of Grade 1 company like Summer Luck and the Ashland. So there's a lot going on in the Black Eyed Susan this year. And there's also, it's intriguing to try to figure it out from a pace standpoint, too. Shimmering Aspen obviously has been very quick at sprint distances. You can only imagine that she's going to be in the front running field there at going a mile and an eighth. We've got Tappa Tappa Tappa, who's pretty quick, and even Yorkie Poo Princess, who has actually shown the ability to rate in the busher. I just don't know what her options are from that outermost post position. So there is a lot going on. My eyes go to Lights of Medina, and this is a horse, there's been a lot of talk of Shimmering Aspen, a lot of talk about Moana, even Summer Luck too. But Lights of Medina has really been flying under the radar, and I think that she's really on the upward trajectory. She ran a huge race in the Weber City Miss, which was the local Win and You're in Maryland, and I think she fits the flow of the race. She's going to be right behind the leader. She doesn't need the lead. She can stalk. She's really won both her recent races at ease. She's got two-turn experience multiple times, so I really like her in there. But Shimmering Aspen, too, I haven't seen Rodney Jenkins have this much confidence with one particular horse in quite some time. They shipped her up to Breeze, her local Breeze, on May 11th here at Pimlico, and the work was outstanding. She just opened stride at ease, covered a lot of ground. So she looks like one that's really finding her own. Now, obviously, the negative is that she's stretching out from 7/8 to a mile and an eighth, and that's never an easy task.
And I have to say, I like Tappa 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 coming out of that Suncoast. Disappointed last time in the Honeybee. A rebound wouldn't be out of the question there for that one at 8-1 on the morning line. I think it's a really fun race. We were talking before we went on the air. You said tomorrow you also found the Miss Preakness intriguing. That one's the 3-year-old fillies going 3/4 of a mile. Again, nice full field in here of 14 with an AE as well. Archangel Caitlin, speaking of horses running well down at Tampa, she has some nice past performances showing up, including the win last time at Tampa and a little bit of a restricted stakes race. Vertical Oak last time out of Prairie Meadows, a nice win in a stake with a pretty good buyer, albeit over a sloppy track. Crab Cakes, locally based, showing some talent. But I'll tell you, I think Our Majesty, 3 for 3 under the wire first, but was disqualified from one of those. But lightly raced for Juan Moquette. Our Majesty, I think, is on the verge of becoming a really, really nice and notable 3-year-old filly, albeit on the sprint side. But that's where my attention is attracted. What are you thinking, the Miss Preakness?
She really does have a lot of talent that she's shown in the afternoon. And if we're looking at how quick the races are run and the strength, she's definitely right there. She could continue her undefeated, technically, streak. But one thing that just pops off the page in the Miss Preakness, Seth, is the overwhelming amount of speed in here. Yeah. And I think you really have to dig into the pace scenario. And if you can figure out the pace scenario and how it will unfold, then you're going to have success at the windows. But it's very difficult to foresee what's going to happen. We've got several horses that just look like they need the lead. We've got Stormy Embrace. We've got Crab Cakes, who's forwardly placed. Our Majesty Bodie's Dream, I think, might even be the fastest of all. So I think it's going to set up for a closer. And even Who's the Lady to the outside for Kathleen O'Connell. Pretty City Dancer is going to be sitting on a huge race, and I love her at 6-1. She's coming out of the 8 Bells last time out. She was totally against the track. The winner, Benner Island, hugged the rail. She was on the lead the entire way, whereas she was very wide going into the final turn. And not only that, one thing that I've noticed from her races going a little bit longer, she breaks a little bit slowly, and then she becomes really ranked behind horses, and it's just been a huge problem for the riders in the afternoon. She causes her own trouble. So when you see horses like that start doing that, going longer distances, it gives you the inclination that they need to cut back in distance. So To me, she looks more like a closing sprinter, and I think she's going to get a perfect pace scenario in front of her. And we've also seen Nana Bella. She looks like one that I think people will think she needs the lead, or she will be going to the lead. But I think she just showed speed first time out, as typical first-time starter Todd Pletcher horses do at Gulfstream. And then they started to give her more distances after that. But I think on the cutback here, she will probably fit that stalking trip. I don't think she has to be on the engine. So for trifecta purposes, Seth, I'm going to be using Pretty City Dancer on top with Nana Bella and Our Majesty.
Sounds good, and I agree. I like the cutback on the Pletcher horse. I like the odds on Pretty City Dancer. And with the full field, and given the recent record, I think the 6-1 will hold up. I could even see it floating up a little bit. We'll see how that potentially plays out tomorrow. But in the Miss Preakness, Pretty City Dancer, again, 6-1 on the morning line. And before we move away from tomorrow, I've asked everybody the past couple of days. I'm envious. I'd love to be down there because these are the kind of races that virtually the entire crowd gets into and the hair stands up on the back of your neck if we get a good performance by Ben's Cat in the McKay Turf Sprint. 11 years old, a multi-millionaire, tied in with, of course, the legendary, and you're from the Maryland area, the legendary King Leatherberry. I'm really excited to see what Ben's Cat can do. Is he past his prime? Probably is, but he won this race last year as a 10-year-old. Give us your thoughts on the Turf Sprint and Ben's Cat.
I think he might be going for his 7th win in the Jim McKay. Maybe. I think he's won maybe 6 out of the last 7 years. So this is his race to lose. He's a 7-time winner here at Pimlico. This is the track that he likes best. He always, historically speaking, runs his best race, second off the layoff, as he did in the Jim McKay Turf Sprint last year. This isn't the only 11-year-old in King Leatherberry's barn. He's got several, including Classic Wildcat, who's kind of a lower-level starter allowance horse. He knows how to keep horses ready well into their old years. And Ben's Cat, I thought he ran a good race last time out. Wasn't his best, but I think he can build upon it. And I also think the pace scenario works in his favor. We've got Pay Any Price, and one thing I've noticed throughout the past couple of years is that turf sprinters that show that much speed at Gulfstream try to transition their form here, and it just doesn't always show up. So I think Pay Any Price is vulnerable. I do think that Richard Spoy, he's the class of the field. He needs to probably run a mediocre race in order for Ben's Cat to win. But I'm going to stick with him, and it's not a sentimental pick. King Leatherberry, statistically wise, he's better with horses making their second start off playoff. So is Ben's Cat. Trevor McCarthy back aboard. I'm hoping for a similar performance that we got from him last year in the Jim McKay.
Yeah, and I'm always amazed up at Saratoga. Stories like this that certainly racing fans are plugged into, but the everyday fans seem to realize it as well up at Saratoga. But I think when you get to big days like this, it's similar, because I think there's maybe enough mainstream media kind of getting these kind of stories out there. And if he comes down the stretch and gets it done again, I think the place will be rocking tomorrow.
I completely agree with you, Seth. And when he won last year, everybody doubted him. They thought he was past his prime still. I was about to cry for King Leatherberry. King was crying. So, and he's not really an emotional person, but he was crying in the winner's circle. So this horse is extremely special. And he's very special to King, too. Yeah,
and again, that is the McKay Sprint tomorrow, so we'll see how that works out. It'll go off at about 4:15 tomorrow afternoon. Before we let you go, obviously, we got to get to the big race and talk a little Preakness. Post positions drawn, a field of 10, mile and 3/16 for $1.5 million. The Grade 1 event, second leg on the Triple Crown. Again, a Triple Crown still alive, as it is every year, as long as the Derby winner shows up in the Preakness. Some new faces in the crowd as well. You mentioned cloud computing earlier. I've looked at the race, and just the new faces, none of them really, even on a wise guy angle, get me too excited. I'm still kind of married to Gunnevera. I've been on him all year long. I'm hoping maybe the off-track affected him in the Derby last time, and we get a bounce back and a better performance. A lot of people over the past week and a half I've talked to think Classic Empire, with his trouble. Maybe was the best horse in the Derby and will get a bounce back. Always Dreaming. The question mark is, how much did the off track help him and hurt the others? And the 2-week turnaround for Todd Pletcher. A lot of questions, but to me, again, the Derby runners seem to have an edge on the others. But what are your thoughts in Saturday's Preakness?
I agree, and I was really battling going back and forth between Always Dreaming and Classic Empire because I do think that these are the two best horses in the race. And from what I've seen from Always Dreaming, it looks like he hasn't skipped a beat coming out of the Derby. Todd Pletcher has been so confident with this horse ever since before he won the allowance race at Gulfstream on the 4th of March. Talking to him, he knew that he was going to win the Kentucky Derby in March. But a lot of people say, Always Dreaming stayed in the clear. He was part of, if you believe the bias that happened that particular day, Kentucky Derby day at Churchill. And all that is well and good, but he was still very close. He was on the lead, very close to the pace, and very aggressive early fractions. And the pace setter, State of Honor, he finished last. Always Dreaming won by almost 3 lengths. So he's a very talented horse. I'm going to have to stick with him. I think he can wheel back around for Todd and take the Preakness. But Classic Empire, he actually, in my opinion, he's got the upper hand given his post position because he's just to his outside. Whatever Johnny Velasquez decides to do, Julian's going to be right there with him. So from a pace scenario, I think Conquest Mo Money, he's probably going to have to be used to the outside, and he's still a pretty fast horse naturally. And from there, I think Cloud Computing is going to be pretty forwardly placed. I wouldn't be surprised if it's almost like a Conquest Mo Money, Cloud Computing, and then we see Always Dreaming and Classic Empire kind of stalking the pace in a similar position.
And give me a little thought on Gunnevera. Have you seen him in the morning? Give me some confidence.
I have, and the first day that he shipped in, the first day that he went to the track, he jogged once the wrong way with the pony, or twice the wrong way with the pony. And he was just on the muscle. He looked absolutely amazing. I've never seen that horse so energetic before in any time, in any capacity that I've ever seen him. But they kind of had an open gallop with him yesterday. And I almost wonder if it would have been almost better to try to harness that energy and keep his schedule a little bit lighter going into the Preakness. But and the pace scenario might not work in his favor. But he's near and dear to my heart. I've dealt with him since before the Holy Bull. He's a really cool horse to be around, just very low-key and clearly talented, but I do think that the pace scenario will have to help him as he is that late closer, and I just don't see it unfolding for him.
All right, looking forward to it. A couple of really nice stakes days down at Pimlico tomorrow and Saturday. And Gabby, I'm assuming we'll see you during the day doing some handicapping on the simulcast signal, correct?
Yes, today, tomorrow, and of course Saturday. We've got big things lined up, so really looking forward to that. And fantastic card. Hats off to the racing office and the stakes coordinators for bringing both of these cards to fruition, because Black Eyed Susan Day is tomorrow's card is incredible, and of course so are the stakes action on Preakness Day itself.
A couple of long days for you and the rest of the crew. 11:30 post time tomorrow, 10:30 on Saturday. Gabby, we appreciate the visit. I know it's obviously a busy time for you, but the thoughts on tomorrow and Saturday. Enjoy the weekend. Good luck to everybody down there, and we'll talk again.
Thank you, Seth. Always fun to join you.
Gabby Gaudet, again, live from Pimlico. We'll head to a break. When we come back, Ellis Starr, National Racing Analyst for Equibase. We'll dive into some of the stakes races with Ellis right after this. Stay tuned.
This is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
Now get all the racing information you need right on your mobile device with Capital OTB's new mobile app. Wager anytime, anywhere, right from your smartphone or tablet. Watch, wager, and win right at your fingertips. The new Capital OTB mobile app. Championship horse racing continues at Capital OTB. There's no better place to watch, wager, and win than OTB TV and CapitalOTBBet.com.
Come on.
I want sales reports on my desk by Monday.
Whoops. My bad.
Love racing? RTN brings you every live simulcast on your home television, plus live video streaming and race replays on your PC and mobile devices. To order, visit RTN.tv. RTN, a breed apart.
And Frosted is coming with giant strides on the far outside. Here comes Honor Code. Here's a wire. Honor Code looked like he got him in the last stride. American Pharoah has lost the lead at the top of the stretch. Keen Ice has got him. Keen Ice has won the Travers.
Coming right back, the American, the European, and it is theatrical in front. Trent Molino driving hard, full out and determined to get him. And here is the wire, and theatrical has won it. Absolutely spectacular.
Welcome back to Racing Across America on this Thursday morning. As promised before the break, joined now by Ellis Starr, the National Racing Analyst for Equibase. Good morning, Ellis.
Good morning, Seth.
Always happy to have you on board, and tell people to swing on by Equibase and get your race of the week. It's a freebie, and you can also get selections, and you're out there doing selections for various tracks as well. But certainly the Preakness card. Preakness card, is it up on Equibase already?
Yep, finished it just about an hour before we got on the air just now, and got it all done. The Friday card as well. Decided to do such a good racing day on Friday, so you can get the full card at Equibase. And as you said, the race of the week, featured race, also on America's Best Racing, is the Preakness. That one, we just give it away because it's such an important race. My analysis for that one's on there, with the detailed selections as well available.
And we'll get some of your thoughts in just a second. But before we do that, I wanted to go back to Derby and Derby Day. You and I were corresponding yesterday, and you were talking about Derby Day, and I mentioned you had a nice day at Equibase with the selections there. But I was envious because you used Arklow on top, and I could have shot myself afterwards because I liked Arklow earlier this year on the dirt. And then when he made that move to the turf a couple races back, I jumped on board and scored that day, and I just couldn't pull the trigger on Derby weekend on the class move, but I could have kicked myself. But a nice call on Arklow.
Well, thanks. I first of all, I didn't mean to put salt in the wound. I didn't know at the time that you had done that. But, it's one of those things that with 2-year-olds and then 3-year-olds early in the year, you can jump from maiden stakes, and he just took the turf like a duck takes to water, I thought, and I just thought it was a nice move. It was a good move for the connections. Smith, of course, riding 4 wide around the track. I knew he had horse because he didn't want to get in any trouble. But, that's where you make money, is you take those stands once in a while, and one of my good friends makes a lot of fun of me for taking maidens and stakes, but I've cashed enough tickets over the years at double digits that I don't mind getting a little grief when I'm going to the window.
Yeah, if the price warrants it, you can take a shot on anything. That's what the game's all about. Again, congratulations on a nice Derby weekend. We'll see if we can keep it rolling on Preakness weekend. We've got some thoughts, obviously, on the big race, but some of the stakes for tomorrow as well. Let's kick it off with the Preakness, and while we talked, I pulled up a replay of the Kentucky Derby just to remind people. Number 5, Always Dreaming, gets it done. Number 1, Looking at Lee, comes up the rail. Nice trip for Looking at Lee to get second place at 33-1. Running 4th, Classic Empire, who had a lot of trouble. Classic Empire, the number 14. My play, and I'm going to stick with them this weekend, number 10, Gunnevera, winds up a little bit of a disappointing 7th in here. But boy, I'll tell you, Ellis, it's tough for me to get beyond the Derby runners. The new faces just don't get me that excited. But what are your thoughts in the Preakness, and do any of the new faces make your mix?
Well, again, the 3 races out there, and I decided to take a shot. I've been pretty lucky the last few years, not with winners, but with getting horses in second, like Tale of Verve and Commanding Curve and some of those others. And but I just took the shot here because I think the fresh horse, Conquest Mo Money, is really interesting here at 15-1. I mean, I'm not going to knock Always Dreaming on any level. I didn't pick him. It's the third time in 15 years I didn't have the Derby winner in my group of 6 contenders, which I do for Derby. Always Dreaming was not on my list. I thought the thing with the draw reins, and I thought he'd freak out when he got out of the tunnel and everybody went crazy, and it didn't happen, and he was calm, and he ran well. So that was a mistake on my part. I also got sucked into betting Thunder Snow. I keep going for Godolphin horses every time they send one to the track, and it had nothing to do with it. He ran what happened to him. Their way of doing things just doesn't seem to portray well for Derby. But in this case, I don't see a lot of speed. Now, I know the 10 post is kind of a bear, and I said in my analysis that Always Dreaming is going to get the same trip he got the Derby, sitting off State of Honor and moving at the 6 furlong mark, but considering Conquest Mo Money is so fresh, that he's had all this time off since April 15th, it just could be that he just can go slow. He ran 46 and 8/10, 111 in the Arkansas Derby. He's not going to have to go nearly as fast. I mean, he can cover him off the pace. He did in the Sunland Derby, but the plan should be to send him because there's no other horse in the race that has shown he's the lead type. And you got the opposite problem here. You've got horses like Looking at Lee, Term of Art, Hence, who all run last early, and Gunnevera. So you got 4 horses that are going to be, 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th pretty much from the start. And so Conquest Mo Money is really, unless Cloud Computing gets sent, Always Dreaming can get sent, but probably won't. Classic Empire, Leopard will take a hold and go 2nd or 3rd early. I think he gets it. They paid $150 to supplement. I heard the story earlier listening to the show with your first guest. It was very cool about the $8,500 bargain, of course, and then the buyback or the dispersal sale. And so, he's an Uncle Mo. He's out of a Seeking Gold mare. He'll run all day. As a matter of fact, he'll probably maybe run the Belmont. And he's just got a very steady stride, and I think he can do something here. Maybe if he's not first, he's still second. And, if I can split Classic Empire and Always Dreaming, it's going to be a nice ticket. So I made the race Conquest, Mo Money, Always Dreaming, and Classic Empire. I recognize Classic Empire had trouble in that race. He was actually getting to Battle of Midway, who was one of my picks. I wish he'd run second in the Derby. So certainly he's going to be there, but there's not a lot of value. He opens at 3-1. He'll be lower. Always Dreaming, of course, 4-5. Look at Lee, had no straw in his path, and not to knock him because it was a great race, but the chart comment says it all. Dream Trip inside, and he might get a better trip. But those horses don't normally run the same races twice in a row. Comment about Gunnevera, there were horses in the Derby I took a stand against. Gunnevera, Gunnevera, McCracken, and Gervin, who I had liked earlier, and I was right on all three of them. I personally think Gunnevera is going the wrong way right now. I think he peaked too early in the season. But I wish you luck at 15-1. You certainly shouldn't pass a bet based on my say-so if he goes anywhere near those double-digit odds.
No, and you've been there, I'm sure, before. I'm kind of married to him a little bit. I liked him earlier this year, and I played him in the Derby. And with the sloppy track, I just can't sit on the sidelines and have him come in Saturday at 15-1.
No.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There are bets we have to make in our lives that are kick-me bets. If you don't make them, you'll kick yourself, and that's worse than anything in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's move on to tomorrow, Black Eyed Susan Day, and go through some stakes there. We'll start with the feature of the Black Eyed Susan Grade 2 event for $250,000. The 3-year-old fillies going a mile and an eighth. A little bit earlier, we were talking to Gabby Gaudet and watched Shimmering Aspen win. Again, locally based horse. So and a lot of these big days, these locally based horses can at least get up in the mix. So I'll be interested to see what Shimmering Aspen does. Lights of Medina has won the last couple at Laurel, but it is a Todd Pletcher horse. Moana for Todd Pletcher also to me is intriguing, and in fact I pulled up the maiden special win at Keeneland on April 14th. Moana will be the number 9 horse in here. This was start number 2 after a second place finish in the career debut over at Tampa. A race over at Tampa for the Pletcher horse maybe sounds familiar because Always Dreaming kind of took that route as well. So Moana looks intriguing in here. I think it's a fun race with a nice full field. What are you thinking in the Black Eyed Susan?
Well, it's a really interesting race, Seth. I looked at the race. I look at the horses first, our handicap, and then I look at figures to say if X horse repeated its race and Y horse repeated its race, how would they match up? And they all come out, 6 of them come out even here. I mean, in terms of equibase figures or buyers, whichever you want to use, and I looked them both just to see if there were any discrepancies, and there really weren't. I mean, you could make a case for Actress, the maiden, coming off a 7 furlong. I love the 7-9 move, which is in a minute when I talk about my top pick. That's what I'm going on, a 7 furlong to 9 furlong stretch out move. You could make a case for Tappa off the Suncoast win, which was, of course, when Blinkers first went on. So that was it, and off of freshening, and maybe she likes to run well fresh, which she's doing again. You make a case for Lights of Medina off the stakes win, another locally based horse, and of course Moana off the maiden win, which maiden to stakes again is Arklow. I mean, it's not a big deal for me at this time of year to go maiden to stakes. And you make a case for Yorkie Boo Princess, who gets Lasix. So what if she bled last out? She runs back to her busher. She can run well. So that being said, because Shimmering Aspen gets the rail, I like her a lot here. I just think that this horse by Malibu Moon, of a lion-hearted mare, has no problem going long. Again, historically, the 7-9 furlong move for me has always been a good one. She can control the pace here. She went 45 and 4/5, 110 and 1 last time out. She's not going to have to go nearly as fast here. So this is a horse running well within her limits on the lead, probably, unless something happens, she stumbles, or some other jockey decides to go. I think they commit pace suicide if they try and take her on. And her 95 equibase speed figure matches up with Moana's 97. It matches up with the stakes figures, Weber City Miss 91, the Suncoast 97. So she's moving in the right direction. And, of course, she's won her last 3, too. It's third off a layoff, which I like most of all. So on on my sheet against full card analysis, but I'll tell you right now, I made Shimmering Aspen 2-1. I'm going to play her strongly on top in exactas over those other 5, Tappa, 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 Lights, Medina, Moana, Actress, New York Blue Princess. I'll turn it around a little bit to have her in second, but, I mean, unless there's some reason that she can't stretch out, she's not ready to go 9 furlongs, I think she goes wire to wire here.
I like it. All right, let's go a little earlier on the card. And again, when we were talking back and forth via emails yesterday, you said here's a couple other races I want to take a look at, and one of them was the Miss Preakness. And interesting, Gabby Gaudet also mentioned that she had some thoughts there, and Gabby thought maybe Pretty City Dancer with a closing effort would be interesting. This is a nice full field. I'm intrigued to see which direction you go. 14 in here with an also eligible, and I mentioned it earlier. I think Our Majesty is sitting on the cusp of being a special horse in this subdivision of 3-year-old filly sprinters. So I pulled up the Keeneland race from April 21st. Our Majesty is going to be the number 5 horse and will win pretty easily. This was the 3rd time under the finish line first, was disqualified from a small stake at Oaklawn in the race just before that. But as I say, I think Our Majesty could be kind of special. That's the direction I'm tilting. But what are your thoughts on the Miss Preakness tomorrow?
Well, I did send you my picks. We're on the same page. The win contenders in this race, even though it's deeper, Our Majesty just outside Vertical Oak, and the 10 Too Much Tip, the horse shipping in from Puerto Rico, who's a Kentucky bred, by the way. I was very impressed by Our Majesty's win. You know, she's a stakes winner already, even though she was disqualified. She won the Purple Martin. She's basically 3 for 3 as far as I'm concerned. She's improved in every race in terms of her efforts and her speed figures. Our chart callers in Kentucky are awesome, Steve and Matt, and the short comment was to go over with ease. So she had gas left in the tank, and I think she is on the verge of being something special. That being said, though, Vertical Oak, also something special. She was the one that was interfered with in the Purple Martin Stakes and placed 3rd, and then she rebounded, or she ran like she might have before that by winning by 7 in the Goldfinch and field was 6, but she drew off readily. Jose Ortiz gets on, and her 106 figure was solid. So 10-1. She was 3 to 5 last out. I don't think she'll be 10-1, but I'll probably bet her. I'm going to make 2 or 3 win bets here. And then Too Much Tip. You know, this is again a Kentucky bred. Now in the Wesley Ward barn. She's 6 for 6 when she had a jockey on her back. She dropped the jockey in one of them, including a Group 2, which didn't win a lot of money, but she won about 50,000 in that race in a field of 6. She can come from off the pace. Again, she's a Kentucky bred. She was bred by Will Farish and sold for only $10,000 at Keeneland, another very inexpensive horse that may do some good here. Luis Saez gets on off 2 nice works for Ward at Keeneland. So I'm looking at these 3 here, and I'll probably make a bigger win bet on Our Majesty, but I have no problem betting 3 horses here because I think there's a profit to be made in a race. And by the way, there is a boatload of pace in this race. If you include Shackelford's Lady, I make 5 horses here that absolutely, positively have to have a lead, or at least seem like they do based on their winning races in the past.
Yeah, and I have to admit, Too Much Tip, the horses South America, or certainly Puerto Rico as well, I'll kind of disregard them, but I'm looking more, as you've talked about this horse, and moving into a Wesley Ward barn. This horse may float away a little bit. Too Much Tip at 10-1. It wouldn't shock me if you got a little more value even, but maybe better than I gave that one credit for. All right, and finally, let's move on to the Turf Sprint. I've talked about this already over the past couple of days because I'm envious of people on track. I would love to be there to see Ben's Cat try to get it done again. And to that, I called up the McKay Turf Sprint from last year. This is 2016, a nice late run by the old millionaire. Ben's Cat was only 10 years old, a spry 10 years old last year. It'll be the number 2 horse here to just get up late. And again, he's a multiple winner of this race. He has a couple of $1 million in the bank, trained by the legend King Leatherberry. The question is, has he lost his step, and will he be able to do it again? But he is clearly going to be the sentimental favorite. What are your thoughts on Ben's Cat, the Turf Sprint, and beyond?
Well, first of all, he's not a top contender, but I'm not worried about losing a step. It's second off the layoff, and he's got a mental attitude of a champion. Yeah. So he'll run well. I don't know what that means particularly in the race. I do know there's a boatload of pace again. Alps Flew has to go from the rail. He's going to go 21, maybe 21 flat. Panny Price went 20.4 in the Gulfstream Park Sprint 3 back, then 20-2 and 20-3. So you know there's going to be a sizzle early. So I'm looking for closers in the race. And again, in my full card selections, I just think people could make some money. I'm not trying to get people to buy them, but there's some 3-rated races because there's some value here in the big fields on both days. We've got like a half a dozen best play races in which double-digit horses, and one of them's in here, and that's the 6-take cover for Alan Goldberg.
Oh, nice.
A 5-year-old with only 12 starts. It caught you by surprise a little, huh?
Yeah, about 15-1. I like that.
Look, he proved himself. He won the Pennsylvania Governor's Cup last year at 9-2. Breathed Spring to the Sky, beat Ben's Cat, ran lousy at Parks on a wet course, then second in a class allowance race in the fall at Laurel, then beaten the nose. So 3 of his last 4 are A races. Actually, 4 of his last 5 are A races, including a win at Laurel at 5.5 last April. Since moving to the Goldberg barn, he was originally in the Mott barn. Jevian Toledo has ridden him very well in 3 straight. He's coming off the bench. He's going to be sitting somewhere in 4th or 5th early. He's a closer with everything that looks good, and if he repeats his Penn Governor's Cup race, it's going to be very, very sweet here. Amelia's Wild Ride, coming back from a year and a month. I'm not worried about the layoff. He won that same race, the Penn Governor's Cup, in 2015. He's now in the Sibeli barn. Jose Ortiz rides. He's a definite closer, and he's got all the credit in the world with $500,000 banked. The 7 Grand Candy. Forget the dirt race last out, 3 back, won a turf sprint, gets Giroux. He could be coming on well. And the 11 Made Bail, which is really interesting because he was 25-1 and ran second. He's still 15-1 here. He ran second undrafted. That was like a stakes race at Keeneland that he ran second in. And he won at Laurel before that with Cintron. They shipped him down to Keeneland, I think just to prep for this race because there wasn't anything going on right then in Maryland. So he could run very well. I'm going to make win bets on Take Cover and Made Bail. And I'm going to play all kinds of crazy exactas using Amelia's Wild Ride, Ben's Cat, and Grand Candy with those other 2.
Yeah, and it's that kind of day. The pools will be big. This is a nice full field. I think people can go a little deeper than they would normally go and take some shots because if you're right, you're going to get paid. It's going to be a couple of nice days, Friday and Saturday, nice stakes action, some nice big guaranteed pools. And again, folks can swing by Equibase to get your full cards both days. Free analysis of the Preakness at Equibase and or America's Best Racing. Ellis, as always, appreciated the conversation and the thoughts. Good luck over the next couple of days. Let's hope we all come out with some money, and we'll talk to you again.
Well, thank you much. Hope everybody has a signer or 2 over the weekend.
Absolutely. That's always the game plan. Ellis, good luck.
Thank you.
Ellis Starr, a national racing analyst for Equibase, all of which brings us to the end of today's show. Gabby got that a little bit earlier. Mike Kane also. They were both live from Pimlico. Mike standing right outside the Alibi Breakfast as we talked. Gabby was actually walking to her office. She had just gotten off the phone. She was on the radio with our buddy Bick. So she was busy this morning doing a lot of media. It's that time of the year down at Pimlico in Maryland. Preakness coming up in a couple of days should be exciting. We'll have a little more Preakness conversation, obviously, tomorrow, hopefully tossing out some good ideas to people. And now Mike Kane has me going on the Conquest Mo Money story. As I said, I did not realize he was New York bred, so a nice little side story there as well. All right, let me hit on some of the promos and events. Coming up today, there's a $100 online knockout challenge on the harness side of the game. So if you're a sulky fan, even if you aren't a sulky fan, give it a shot. Go to CapitalOTB.com for more information. That's today. Tomorrow, the Bounty Bet returns over $1,900 up for grabs. It's the late pick 4 at Woodbine. We mentioned it yesterday, but it is well worth mentioning again. That is a 20-cent base bet, so you can get a lot of coverage and take your shot at either the bounty as a whole if something crazy happens, or at least pick up some of that consolation money if you hit the pick 4 and wind up getting a little extra dough in there via the Bounty Bet. That's tomorrow, the late pick 4 at Woodbine. More information via the website. Tomorrow also, Fan Appreciation Day for our friends at Alpha Lanes in Troy. If you're a patron there, swing by, give us our chance to say thank you to you. Tomorrow and Saturday, the City Line, 1200 Western Avenue in Albany. The Betmobile will be there. A great location to watch Black Eyed Susan Day, Preakness Day from 11 to 7. You can go enjoy the food and drink at the City Line, just across Western Avenue from the University of Albany. And of course, you'll be able to bet via the Betmobile both days, tomorrow and Saturday. Tomorrow and Saturday also swing by Clubhouse Racebook or your local branch, but the Clubhouse Racebook, always a lot of fun. Great venue to watch big events. Expect a big crowd in here. It should be an awful lot of fun both days. Black Eyed Susan and Preakness Day, because again, boy, a couple of nice stakes card. Thanks to our friends at Woodbine for their sponsorship. Woodbine, pick, bet, and cheer on great racing north of the border. All right, Racing Across America. We are here every Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday from 10 until 11 a.m. or sometimes 11:02, sometimes 11:03. We've gone past, so it's time for me to wrap up. Enjoy the racing this afternoon. Let's all cash a few tickets and meet right back here tomorrow morning.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off Track Betting.